Alright, so today it's time for a match of Zerg versus Zerg. Now before you click away, I know there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily the biggest fans of ZVZ. From what I've heard at the very least, this series is a lot of fun. After this series was played during DreamHack Full, several of you reached out on Twitter and mentioned that I should really go ahead and cast this series. So I'm gonna make the assumption that at the very least it's not gonna end with, I don't know, like an early spawning pool or some Ling Bane cheese or the Roach Ravager Wars, right? I mean, those are the vast majority of ZVZs out there. One of the reasons why I don't think a lot of people are the biggest fans of this matchup, well, is first off the fact that there's not a whole lot of variety, but secondly, when you're watching like an online tournament, right? Sometimes there's like 15 minutes of downtime in between the matches, sometimes even longer. And a best of 3 series of Zerg versus Zerg, like what I have for you here today, it can literally be over in like, I don't know, 2 minutes? If there's a guy going for a 13-12 in game number 1 and it works out, oftentimes we see the same strategy being used in game number 2. And yeah, it's not necessarily the most exciting set of games. Now, obviously on YouTube, I have the luxury of casting whatever I like and then posting only the very best. So I'm going to make the assumption at the very least that this series is going to be a little bit different. So, spawning here in the top right-hand corner of Pillars of Gold, playing with the blue Zerg drones from France, we are looking at none other than Stephano's main hatchery. His opponent in the opposite corner, joined right there by Samwise, spinning around on his main hatch, playing with the red Zerg pieces from Germany, we have none other than Lambo. Alrighty, so here we go. Stephano is one of the old school legends of StarCraft 2, especially in the early days of Wings of Liberty, so I'm talking like 2011, 2012, 2013, this man won tournament after tournament after tournament. And I believe he has like roughly $300,000 in like prize earnings alone. At some point though, he made the rookie mistake. He decided to go study and go to university so he can live like a normal life or something along those lines. Nah, I'm just kidding. But there's no denying though that despite the fact that he dominated in the early days of StarCraft 2, he's always been very good, and one thing I always liked about Stephano is that he plays his own playstyle. So a lot of people think that he quit the game. I don't think he ever actually did. He took maybe a bit of a break or like an extended break here and there, but he's always been very, very good, and he's always been like top 16, top 8 on the European Grandmaster League ladder, at the very least whenever he wants to. Now, I'm gonna make the assumption, right? Judging by the fact that I've seen both of these guys play many times, that the action, as far as like crazier games go, is probably going to be on Stephano. Because here's the thing, Lambo plays a very stock standard kind of style of Zerg versus Zerg. What was that, by the way? That was a little bit odd. Anyways, Lambo plays a very normal style of Zerg versus Zerg, basically the way that we see all the top level Zerg players play. Stephano always has kind of played his own play style, and I can appreciate that. He doesn't really seem to be copying the way that other people necessarily want to play. Now, he's decided to skip the third base and already has gone into a very quick lair. Lair, in the meantime, on the other side of the map, also started up super early, actually. So there is going to be an Evo chamber over here, but both players have decided to skip their baneling nests. +1 melee here coming up, by the way, for Lambo. I just wanted to highlight his beautiful decal there. Absolutely fantastic, but there it is. Okay, so Stephano wants to start off this series with a bang. He's decided to rush out a Nidus network. This is one of those builds that will work wonders in tournaments. Great scout right there, by the way. He does see the Nidus at this point, so that's a really important scout there by Lambo. But this is one of those builds that works really well in tournaments. I don't think you necessarily want to do this on the ladder, because you have the tendency of just getting overrun by Zerglings. Stephano knows, however, that his opponent doesn't really like to play a lot of Zergling early game aggression, so I think that may very well be the reason why this Nidus worm is going up so very early. Now, since it was spotted there, yeah, I like this move here. The Nidus is going up right outside of the vision range there, outside of the natural of Lambo. He does have another Overlord ready in the back of the main base as well to potentially deploy a Nidus there too, but Stephano is sending the queens straight across the map. Now, look how small this army is. Is he actually going to prioritize killing an Overlord? Okay, I was going to say, that would be a little bit crazy. Maybe he just wants to go right now for a bit of a distraction while Nidusing in the main base as well. Zerglings desperately trying to get the wraparound. Link speed is not done yet here actually for Lambo either. So these units right now pop into the Nidus worm over there, and they're gonna pop out inside of the main base once more. Once +1 melee finishes up, this is gonna be significantly easier for Lambo, who's now decided to pull all of the drones as well to join in the engagement. Queens desperately trying to transfuse here as much as they possibly can. Couple of workers have gone down here, but actually, that is a very small amount. Wow. Perfect defense there by Lambo so far. The Roaches once again, though, this time around decide to go to the natural. Metabolic Boost finally finishes up. Nice positioning there by Stephano. He needs to make sure that he does not get fully surrounded here by Zerglings. Now, +1 melee is finishing up in about 1 second. It will finish, so that's very helpful. That means that these Zerglings now deal significantly more damage. And even though this is not like the best wrap around these roaches, I think it might very well be enough to, at the very least, clean this up here for the time being. Now, additional reinforcements are arriving. I wonder if this is maybe a little bit of an overcommitment here by Stephano. He has been, you know, sitting on a pretty healthy worker count as well, but eventually all of this will be cleaned up. The Nidus Worms obviously are not free. This is not something you just want to throw out there and do no damage with. So was that really enough there? That's kind of the question. Okay, so Stephano is going to complete the wall off over here on his side of the map. That means that he's locking himself into a 2-base setup. He's still making a lot of units. He still has a couple of them rallied into the worm as well. Okay, looks like that was maybe just a misrally, but this is a bit of an awkward position right now for the Frenchman. Assuming another Nidus Worm goes up inside of the main base completely uncontested, I think Lambo will be fine. He's going right now into a Spire, which I do like, especially when you go for that, you know, that +1 melee upgrade. It's just a really nice transition to go for more Zerglings and then into a Muta play as well. Just because obviously those soak up a lot of your gas and then your minerals can be dumped on Zerglings here instead. Now, one thing you may have already noticed at the bottom section of the screen as well as the production tab there, I'm testing out this new interface. Normally what I do is I cast with the WCS 3.0 overlay, but this is like the new overlay that Blizzard, I think Blizzard made. I'm not entirely sure actually, but anyways, this is what most of the online tournaments have been casted with recently. The UI looks slightly different. So with the interface, I'm talking about this bottom bar over here as well as the production tab and a couple of other, you know, small improvements here and there. Please let me know down below in the comment section of this video what you think of it. Do you like this interface better or do you prefer the old one? So there's technically a little bit less information on this, but you can still see some of the data over here. For example, these little red icons over here indicate that Lambo is currently having that gas income advantage quite significantly so. So it's a bit cleaner, but it should still give you, well, pretty much the same amount of information. Maybe a little bit less, but should be okay. So this is supply count, worker count, army supply count, minerals, gas, and then upgrades. Right? It's a little cleaner. I really like it, but please let me know down below in the comment section what you prefer. Anyhow. Additional spines are coming up. So Lambo is going to make the assumption here that his opponent is not done with the aggression yet. Stephano is going for an extremely far away Nidus Worm. This is about as conservative as it can be. I mean, it's really the only location though where he could get it up uncontested. Obviously, he could drop another Nidus over here if he wants to and like slow down the advancement here, or at the very least, like, yeah, increase his reinforcement time. There's a couple Mutas available right now, but there's really not that much here for Lambo. That said, as long as he can clean up these queens, right, the Mutas are going to be able to clean up all the rest of this eventually. Ooh, Stephano, bring in a couple of drones here as well. And he's actually going to start making spore crawlers on his opponent's creep. I like it. Zerglings, though, in the meantime, do wrap around the queens, and that is pretty good. A couple of them will be cleaned up relatively easily. Nice place there by Lambo. He knows that he needs to clean most of this up before those spore crawlers finish. Now, the spore crawlers do build extremely quickly. There we go. The Mutas now, after cleaning up all of the queens, decide to target fire down the spores. Spores deal a lot of damage, especially to biological units. And guess what? That's exactly what these Mutalisks are. Nice push here by Stephano, who's now starting up like a, I guess, a slow push on his opponent's creep. Additional drones were just brought across as well. We can just go for another Nidus over there. That's not going to be easy to clean up here at all. Ooh, this is neat. So we have an extended 2-base all in here by Stephano. Throws up another Nidus Worm over here. Very cool. Income advantage, though, still heavily in favor here of Lambo for quite some time already. I mean, he just has more, you know, income here in general. 35 drones versus only 24. Nice corrosive balls there. They do outrange that that spine crawler. Nice transfuse there as well, actually, on that overseer, just barely keeping it alive. Lambo is in a weird spot though, because this is like an army that is extremely cost efficient. He does have +1 missile rather, meaning that he now 2-shots those Zerglings rather than 3-shots them with his roaches, which is a very big improvement. Now Stephano is slowly pushing those spore crawlers up towards the high ground, forcing Lambo to make a move. Is there going to be enough right now for the German Zerg player to clean all of this up? I'm not even entirely sure, man. Oh my god, I actually thought that Stephano was dead in the water when his first attack failed. Units once again decide to pop back in. Apparently a couple of mutas have decided to fly across the map, which I do quite like. Queens apparently are going to be needed now at home. That does mean that the roaches obviously have free reign as well to do whatever they like over here. I mean, there's a couple mutas here that have been reinforcing this for a little while already, but the mutas here of Lambo, like the real muta count, is in the meantime on the other side of the map. So that does mean that the roaches are going to be overwhelming the natural hero of Lambo, and at the same time it looks like Stephano is losing some units at home, but it's really not that significant. Natural, oh my god, natural of Lambo will be gone here very soon. He can't actually kill 3 spore crawlers like this. I mean, killing these 3 spores, even with like 19 mutas, is gonna cost him like 10 mutas. Okay, maybe not that many, but it's gonna cost him a lot. Love the fact actually that he's purposely not finishing up the hatchery. He knows very well that he doesn't need to yet. He can always go back and kill that relatively easily. There's no mining there happening anyway, so you don't really need to deal with the brootlings. Now, this is a bit of an overextension though. Stephano moving up to the high ground. He thought maybe that those mutas were on their way once again towards the other side of the map. But with the mutas gone out of the main base of Stephano, the queens have decided to once again get into the worm and go across. Is this a one-base containment right now? Because I think it is. Now, the muta count is looking healthy though, yeah. It's getting to the point where he can actually start one-shotting some of those queens. So transfuses can be neglected here. There's a Nidus Worm going up inside of the main. I almost feel like Stephano doesn't even need to push here. Just sit here. Just, like, you don't have to go into the main base. Just contain him on 1 and then try and mine your own natural, right? If that is the case, I mean, at some point, look at this already. We have 30 workers mining 4 mineral patches. At some point, they're just gonna run out of steam. You can always bring the queens back if you really want to. So as soon as that is, yeah, as soon as those mutas are moving across, apparently the roaches decide to, at the very least, attempt moving in as well. A little bit of indecisiveness here by Lambo. Now, if Lambo can actually kill that Nidus network, there might still be a chance. Good transfuses here as well by Stephano, keeping that spore crawler in his own natural alive. He already built a second spore. And despite the fact that Stephano looked dead in the water here earlier, I love what he's doing here. This is really, really neat. Already, a very strange game of Zerg versus Zerg. Not one that you might necessarily want to execute on the ladder. I mean, maybe if you find yourself in a similar scenario, it is still an idea, but I've got a feeling that Lambo is in a little bit of trouble. He's just about to lose everything, right? What's he gonna do against all of this? Well, there's a couple of spines over there, but he's got only a handful of minerals remaining. That said, though, if the queens fall, there is still a chance. Lambo does have a very high muta count. Like, that is not to be forgotten. Spore crawlers and queens, I mean, they need transfuses to stay alive, but apparently Lambo decides to leave the game without a GG. Alrighty, so that brings us to Eternal Empire. Even though it may have felt like that game wasn't entirely over yet, considering Stephano was defending his own natural just fine, and considering Lambo couldn't really, you know, prevent the opponent there from mining, and considering Lambo was not going to be able to take another expansion himself, that game was as good as over. I'm not sure if he forgot the GG though, or if he's a little bit triggered, a little bit salty. I mean, we see this every once in a while, especially in non-Korean SC2. I don't think I've seen any of the Koreans ever leave a game without a GG. Like, maybe in a ladder match, but not really in tournament matches. There used to be very strict rules regarding GGing and GLHFing, especially during the Caspa times for StarCraft Brood War. These days, obviously, it's not really that strict anymore, but back then, if I understand correctly, I'm pretty sure you could only type GLHF and GG. Those were the only things you were allowed to type, and if you didn't, or if you forgot, or you'd, like, you know, typed something a little bit differently, you would just straight up be disqualified from the event. So there were some very strict rules regarding that. I don't think we're going to be seeing that in StarCraft 2 ever again, because that seems a little bit extreme as well. Plus, you know what? Especially when there's, like, cameras on the players, I kind of like seeing them get a little bit salty, you know? It's like, I kind of like seeing them get a little bit flustered. Having emotions in games, it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing. Anyways, so here we go. Let us see where Eternal Empire is going to take us. So it is currently a 1-0 advantage here for Stephano, who showcased a really cool style. I have seen a couple people going for like that Spore Crawler push with the Nidus Worm in the past. It is pretty neat, but I mean, it can easily be overwhelmed, right? Like, that was a strategy that like barely worked out there. It's one of those threats that is not super reliable, especially not at this high of a level. But I like the fact that Stephano decided to mix it in right here in a best of 3 series. Curious to see what he's going to bring to the table in this particular match. I know I'm a bit of a nerd, but I always like looking at these overlord positionings, right? So already both players are positioning their overlords slightly differently. I actually think I prefer the way that Lambo is doing it here. So basically Lambo is flying his overlords past all of the different attack paths. So if this would have been an early game cheese from Stephano, he would have been able to see the Zerglings coming in. Whereas for Stephano, he would have not seen all of the possible run-by locations, I don't think. I mean, he's just sending this one straight over here towards this ramp. He will see if a third base starts up, so he should be able to see that this third hatchery has just now begun. There it is. And in the meantime here as well, for Lambo, he's going to be able to figure out the same thing with a handful of Zerglings that he just now produced. Alrighty. Already, once again, a little bit out of the ordinary here. So Stephano is opting for a faster third queen. Sent the queen, I think, from the main base to go towards the natural, and is now sending the natural queen to deal with those Zerglings over at the third. This doesn't seem like a really big deal, but it's basically allowing Stephano to get away with one group less of Zerg, or one less group. I can't talk anymore. English is a hard language, but he's making less Zerglings is what I'm trying to say. 4 Zerglings versus 2 Zerglings doesn't seem like the biggest of deals, but you can see right here, Stephano, as far as worker count goes, is just a little bit ahead. Cutting a couple of corners here and there. I like it. Link speed is finishing up for both. This time around, we do have a bailing nest on both sides of the map, which is the conventional way of playing, of course. Having that bailing nest is super, super helpful. Already going for a 4th queen too. Huh. I actually don't mind the 4th queen at all. So this is something that we have seen every once in a while. I like having the early 4th queen as well, because you're gonna need one eventually anyway. And I mean, they're extremely good defensively. Like, look at that. The target firing there by Brenda. She just sniped the Baneling. Good work right there, Brenda. Well done. No, but it really does help. It really does help. And on this map, obviously, you can complete this wall off over here too, making it a little bit harder for your opponent to continue with the Ling Bane aggression. So I don't mind this position here for Stephano whatsoever. More conventional approach here by Lambo, though, just going for the most stock standard way of playing this. Although, he did decide to go for a relatively late Evo chamber and then a pretty fast lair. Recently, Muta play has become super popular once again, especially on maps where it can be kind of difficult to take a 4th base. So, most of the time what we see in this matchup is the ultimate unit comp... Oh, wow. There's a hole in the wall. That kind of defeats the purpose. Most of the time in this matchup, the ultimate unit composition is Hydra Lurker Viper. But in order to get Hydra Lurker Viper, you need 4 bases, right? You need 8 gases in order to properly pull that kind of thing off. So if you're the one playing Mutalisks and you can prevent your opponent from ever getting a 4th base, you basically just win in the long run because they can't really make that big of an army. Anyhow, I think at the very least, that may very well be the reason why Mutas are once again very popular. And there it is, Spire on both sides of the map. Now, Stephano did decide to go for a Roach Warren. The Evo Chamber hasn't actually researched anything yet. +1 melee once again happening here for Lambo, who's skipping the Roach Warren entirely. So this is a very heavy focus on Mutalisks. I like it, actually. So there's the 4th base coming up as well, I think. Okay, maybe not. He's just a little bit concerned right now for these Zerglings of his opponent, but in a little bit he will figure out that it is going to be... Ooh, nice little bit of micro there. It is going to be a lack of +1 melee here for Stephano, and that's going to make these blue Zerglings significantly more powerful. Now look at that, though. So, this is a little bit odd. Again, I play a lot of Zerg versus Zergs on the ladder, and this is a little bit out of the ordinary. So, there's a Spire coming up here for Stephano, but he's in the meantime also getting himself +1/+1, completing the wall with another Evo, and a Roach speed. So maybe he wants to make like 1 flock of Mutas and then transition, which is a bit of a problem because already Lambo is making 10 of those bad boys. Muta games are very much so determined by the player who has more Mutas than the other. So if you find yourself in a situation like Stephano right now, I mean, what are you going to do? You have your own Spire and stuff, but he's getting himself the +1 Carapace upgrade. Oh, okay. Oh, I like it. Okay. So I've seen this a couple of times. He's going for Corruptors. So we have, this is once again a crazy game. We have someone going Lingbane Muta, which is very standard and something we have seen about a gajillion times before. However, Stephano is going a Roach Corruptor. Huh. I'm actually not entirely sure how that plays out. So, I've tried it myself in the past. There's these awkward scenarios where you're kind of forced into it. Like, say you're going Spire, and then you see your opponent's Mutas, and you're like, oh, crap. I don't really want to cancel my Spire, because what else are my opportunities? Like, what am I going to do? Cancel it and make a Hydra then? I mean, that kind of costs me the same as a Spire. I guess I'll try out Corruptors. Maybe that's what happened here to Stephano. The thing is, if you're... So, in Muta battles, right? It very much so comes down to the player with more Mutas. So, if you have 20 Mutas and your opponent has 18, you win that fight 10 times out of 10. It's actually crazy, like, assuming all of those units are together. And it's not gonna be even close. Like, you live through that battle, not with 2 Mutas alive, but with, like, 7. I'm pulling those numbers out of my ass, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like, it very much so becomes a numbers game. So, I like what Lambo is doing here a lot. He's got that high-yield gas of the low-ground base over at the 4th, and he's already getting another one. This is not a conventional base to take either, but I like it a lot. He's got limited worker numbers here, and he's trying to just simply optimize the amount of gas that he's getting. So, Corruptors do win fights in straight-up battles with Mutalisks. However, they are also significantly more expensive, and obviously, they're not nearly as good as Mutas at harassment, right? I mean, Mutas are super fast. Good scout there, actually, by Stephano as well. But Mutas are super fast, and you can obviously still kill Corruptors with Mutas, assuming you have enough of them. So, currently, we are 26 Mutas and 17 Corruptors. Look at this. What is going on right now? I've watched a lot of StarCraft 2. These are not games that happen all too often. While the Mutas are occupied, though, the Roaches apparently decide to move across the map. At the same time, Zerglings trying to do a bit of a run-by. Are the Mutas winning this? I'm not even entirely sure, to be honest. 14 Corruptors versus 20 Mutas? I don't know. I like this a lot, though, because these Corruptors right now are buying so much time for these Roaches to do a lot of damage. We just have a bunch of workers being killed here and there. Obviously, after you kill all of your opponent's Mutas with the Corruptors, you can still use the Caustic Spray ability to potentially get a little bit of damage in there. So he's trying to kite backwards right now. And you know what? I think it's working, yeah. We have 14 Corruptors, though, versus 25 Mutas here. It's not ideal, but he's killing so many freaking drones in the meantime. Wow. All right. This is so exciting. So... I know, I realize how nerdy I sound in these kind of games, right? But the thing is, the Zerg versus Zerg meta has been kind of stale for quite some time. Stephano is showcasing some really, really cool approaches here in both of these games. It's not like this is completely new or whatever. Like, we have seen this in the past, and we did see the build in game number 1 in the past as well. But he seems to be playing this as, like, his standard, you know? Like, this seems to be what he's comfortable playing. And there we go. Caustic Spray being used in Zerg versus Zerg to try and kill a hatchery. That's so funny. I don't think I've actually ever seen that before. There's a couple of Roaches now even finishing up the 5th base. Another base was acquired on the left-hand side by Lambo. But you know what? I think that Stephano at this point is ahead. That said, okay, let's take a step back. Yes, he's killed his opponent 4th and 5th. Yes, he's done a lot of eco damage. But Stephano is still taking, you know, 3 base eco as his, like, main source of income. And his only source of income, right? Not even just his main. He doesn't have a 4th. And without a 4th base, I'm still a little concerned here. Because despite the fact that he's got an economical advantage at this point, Lambo still has full map control. He once again is just securing another base. And with Stephano only on 3 bases, I mean, I don't really know what he wants to do. Okay, so there's the 4th base coming up. Now, how are you going to defend that? This will be scouted right away by Lambo. So he's got Zergling scouting or I guess that's an Overlord, but he got locations spotted right now on the map. He knows when his opponent is taking a 4th, and this is the moment, apparently. Zerglings are going to be more than enough to kill this base if they decide to just click on it. There we go. No cancel, so that's 300 minerals plus the cost of the drone down the drain. Queen's coming up with the slow push of the creep. So wait, is this gonna be a... by the way, he's going Roach Burrow and +2 Flyer Carapace as a follow-up right now. Really neat. I think what he's doing at this point is slow pushing creep forward so he can make spores on the low ground and then, you know, hopefully still acquire that base. The only problem with that is that it takes forever. It takes an extremely long time to actually secure. And Lambo is still happily getting himself a nice amount of income, right? His worker count is looking very solid once again, and he's got himself a very healthy amount of mutas out. Now, Queen's obviously really good at defense with those transfuses. Even when they can't hit the mutas themselves, they can still aid in the battle by healing up those corruptors. I don't know what the ratio is. Like, is it like, do you need 1.5 mutas for every 1 corruptor? Like, I don't know what the ratio is. I'm guessing it's something along those lines. Anyways, here's the Roach Burrow. So, this is going to alleviate a lot of the pressure off of Stephano's 4th base, who he once again, or what he once again is acquiring here. So, these Roach Burrows are going to slow down the harassment here by Lambo for quite a bit. And there's actually tons of them, man. He's sending them everywhere. There's no Overlord speed here for Lambo. And there it is finally. Nematized Carapace is coming up, but that means that these roaches are going to take a while to clean up. Okay. I mean, he's not really doing any damage with those mutas. Or, sorry, with those roaches, but he's buying time with them, right? And I guess that's worth the cost of like 5 of those bad boys here. You don't really need to get this out either, right? You don't have to really show that you're, you know, still having a couple of those roaches in the opponent's mineral line. You don't have to YOLO them in. Just keep them there. And maybe you can use them a little bit later on. There we go, by the way. Pathogen Glance is coming up here as well for Stephano, plus a Hive. So Pathogen Glance is the Infestor energy upgrade. It's now a very scary amount of mutas, though. Yeah. Pathogen Glance is fantastic if you land a fungal growth on these mutas. They are absolute toast. With the way that Lambo is maneuvering them around especially, like look how clumped up they are, right? 1 fungal growth can end the battle here very rapidly. Once again, roaches are moving in. These are well upgraded roaches, so they're going to be able to stay alive against these Zerglings for quite some time, especially with the surface area over here. Beautiful moves there once again. Main base in the meantime has gone down. Corruptors will be transfused here for quite some time, and eventually Lambo decides to fly away, but the main hive right now is gone. That puts Stephano in a bit of a weird position. In the meantime, though, this newly acquired hatchery over here is taking a lot of damage. A roach from the natural, apparently also dealing a little bit of deeps, and Stephano once again decides to tunnel on out of there. I love the way that Stephano is playing this, man. I'm sitting here with a big smile. Okay, I mean, I still favor Lambo here. Oh, well, that helps. But I still favor Lambo here, just because of the, you know, the eco game. 4th base has been acquired by Stephano, but he lost his hive, right? So no, like, vipers or anything along those lines anytime soon. He does have infestors, though. He's looking for the fungal. 1 fungal can end it all. Oh, nice split there, actually. I really like that split, but he's once again clumping them up. There we go. The fungal growth is being utilized on all of those mutalisks. Stephano all of a sudden finds himself a clump of mutas for basically free. Corruptors are just killing mutas one by one. Queens from the low ground helping out as well. Lambo just ended up losing a huge amount of supply. Oh my god. Wait, hold up. I don't know if that was necessarily game over yet, though. I mean, hold up. Let's go back. Lambo decided to single G out of there. So no GG, just 1 G. There's 12 mutas here. There's 10 corruptors. There's 15 roaches, of which a couple are on the other side of the map. Yeah, you know what? I am pretty sure that the follow-up attack here by Stephano would have actually cleaned up the game. Because, I mean, if you want to reinforce this, right, as Lambo here, what are you going to do? Are you going to make Zerglings or mutas? Both are going to be countered quite easily. I think he may have still been able to try, though, but this is... That was my face right there when he hit the GG. Very appropriate. Wow, man. I can't believe it. Stephano just won 2-0. Now, I hope that you enjoyed watching this game. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below or the dislike button if you didn't like it. Also, feel free to hit that subscribe button so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. A special shout out this time around to the YouTube members. Thank you guys very much for your generosity. I recently overhauled my YouTube membership system, so if you are interested in joining, you can click the join button right below the video or in the description of the video if you're watching this on mobile. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an awesome day. Don't forget to smile, and I hope to see you once again in the next one.